My name is Freels. I'm from Keller, Texas. I am in the flag football business, and we run a lot of leagues and tournaments. I came from a lower class family. My father had many different jobs, and my mom took care of us in the house, and we kind of went through some rough times as a family, and my dad left, and so my mom went to work. And we were always struggling, but we never really worried about the next day, so I guess we were definitely blessed in that respect. We grew up in the church. I went to church every night, and that's kind of where I started playing flag football. Was every night we got there, my mom was a director at the church, and we had a big piece of grass in front of it, and we played probably 30-40 minutes every night, and usually my brother and I were there first, so we would pick teams. And I guess that's kind of where I got to the point where I was organizing flag football. This probably started when I was 6-7 years old. These days I run flag football leagues. We have leagues and tournaments, and we play usually on Saturdays and Sundays. We have a lot of league play on Sundays and tournaments mainly on Saturdays. We have mainly cash tournaments with the 5-on-5, and we've developed a new way to try and make it fair, where we rank all the players, and then we have different tournaments for the different skill levels. So my week mainly consists of writing the schedules for the Sunday leagues, making sure all of my partners have everything they need for their pieces of our business, and making sure the website is looking good, and we're communicating through Facebook, and then trying to make sure we have all our players ranked where they belong, and making sure that everything's ready for that weekend. Is this what I saw myself doing? No, I don't know if I ever really thought too far into the future. Maybe that was part of the hard part of my journey, is I didn't really plan much ever. I kind of went with the flow in college, played college football. Actually, my plan was kind of crazy. I always wanted to be in the NFL, and I never really thought too much about what it took to be there. I just played at that level that I was at that point in my life, hoping for the best, and things kept getting better and better and better. High school turned out really well, and then I went to college. College went well for a while until I got injured. And when I got injured, I think I want to say that a part of me pretended like it wasn't really happening, like I wasn't really hurt. So I kind of sublimated with shooting a lot of pool and hanging out with my buddies and kind of wasting time, because I guess I was at a point where I didn't really know what was going to happen next, because my whole life I'd wanted to play in the NFL. So when it didn't seem like that was going to happen, I went through a phase where I just went with any opportunity that came my way. And really it was about a 6-year hiatus. I lived in California, traveled around, did a lot of different things, and one day I woke up and said, you know, this isn't the way I was taught. This wasn't supposed to be like this, and I decided to go back to school and finish my degree. My injury was in my junior year, and it was an elbow, and then a knee, and then a joint that I think God was trying to get me out of there and into this line, because, well, the only thing I can really say got me to where I am right now is so many prayers, and so many wild and crazy things happened to me. I know that sounds funny for me to say wild and crazy, but some of the stories of how we got to where we are. Deion Sanders, a friend of Deion Sanders, called us one day and asked us to come build an organization with him. Things like that, and just working with the Dallas Cowboys, having the opportunity to play our tournaments at the stadium, just things I never would have dreamed would have happened to me started happening. And so I know that it wasn't, well, I know I have to show up, and I know I have to have faith, and I know I have to be organized, and I know I have to read and understand how other businessmen have done this, and I know I have to understand, you know, what's important, how to treat people, how to work with people, how to lead people, because I have people working for me, and then you have to know a lot about marketing because you have to get the word out. So all those things I was working on, but I'll tell you, the thing that really brought it all together was some just amazing things. And I think that's, if I was talking to somebody, that's what I would tell them, is don't try and understand or figure out where you're going. Just pray, work hard, and things will happen. And I can't explain it, and I can't even really tell my story in a short amount of time. And that's kind of frustrating in a way to me, because I want to tell the whole story. But you know, today's just about the big picture. So I want to talk about the big picture, and maybe someday we can talk about the details, because they're pretty amazing. But just things like getting fields when we didn't know where to turn, or teams just registering out of the blue, seeing our stuff on our website when we weren't doing a lot of marketing. You know, a lot of amazing things happen. But did I see myself where I am right now? No. What did I learn? I think what got me to where I am right now, a turning point, was a book I read. Somebody referred it to me. It was called Big Bucks, and the book really taught about finding what you love to do and putting everything you have into it, figuring out what you're passionate about, and going and running with it. And I thought, it made me think, what was the most fun I ever had in my life? I was in Houston, Texas. A buddy of mine said, hey, do you want to go play in a flag football tournament? I said, sure. I played it in college. He said, yeah, there's this big, huge flag football tournament that the NFL's doing. And I'd never heard about it. I think the first thing I said to him was, we can really do that? That's available? We can go just play in a flag football tournament? He said, yeah. He said, but you got to go get the brochure. It's at Blockbuster Video. And I thought it was a joke at first. I went to Blockbuster Video. I've never seen anything at Blockbuster Video except videos and M&Ms and popcorn and drinks. But I went there, and I asked the lady, I said, do you have a brochure for a flag football tournament? She said, yeah, it's right there on the counter. And I picked it up, and it was the NFL Air It Out tournament. This was 1993, 4, right around there. And so we got in a car and drove to Dallas, Texas, showed up at the fields at South Fork Ranch, and there was, as far as you could see, football fields. We walked over to the tent. We couldn't believe our eyes. We couldn't believe we were at some place. It was like our little bit of heaven. I thought I found heaven on earth. And we got our schedule, and it said I was on field 141. I thought to myself, okay, if I'm on 141, that means there's at least 140 others. This sucker must be big. I come to find out many years later that there was 1,000 teams in the tournament that weekend. And the next weekend there was 1,000 teams again. And so fast forward to 2003, almost 10 years later, 6 years, you know, that going out and traveling around after I got hurt in college, going out traveling around trying to just find happiness. You know, it's not out there. Happiness is inside you. And I realized that at one point. And I came back and went to school, went back to school, finished my degree, got my master's degree, University of Texas at Tyler, and then started looking, and that's when I read the book. So this is 10 years after all of that, and that was when I read the book, and the book said, what was the most fun you've ever had in your life, or what was something that you really enjoyed? And I remember that weekend, and I thought, is it possible to make a business out of flag football? And so I did, and I tried, and I did a million things wrong. That's something else I learned. And I will tell you this, during that 10-year period between the school and the injury, and then I was in network marketing. And so network marketing teaches a lot of people that don't know anything about business how to create business. And from even in the beginning, they say open up the phone book and just start calling numbers. That's where we're at. If you don't know anybody, you got to find somebody. You got to get the word out. You got to do whatever it takes to succeed. I think I saw a video on YouTube one day. This guy said, he said the guy wanted him to come and learn about business, and he took him to the beach and he took him out into the water. I think y'all probably seen this one. And he said, why am I at the beach? I thought I was going to learn about business. And he said, come on out here. And he walked out into the water, and he said, come on out a little further. And he said the guy grabbed his head and pushed him down underneath the water. And he pulled him up. He said, what does this have to do with business? He said, he pushed him back down into the water again. He says, if you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, that's what it takes to make it in some levels of business. Now, you can go work for your dad in some company and go to the easy way and do this, but if you don't have a father that owns a big corporation, or you don't have a lot of friends that are going to slide you in somehow, and there's no one doing what you love to do, and you have to build it, you're going to have to want to do that business more than as much as you want to breathe. And I think that's where I was at that moment, and I learned a lot about that in network marketing, because network marketing is so tough. And so when I took the street business that I learned from network marketing, and I mixed it with a lot of what I was learning in my degree plan, and then my master's degree, and I put that all together, and I realized I learned one thing that school taught me was that you need to read. You need to read a lot. And what you know right now, if you knew what it took to be successful, you would be it right now, but you're not. So where are you going to get it? You're going to have to read. And there's a lot of people out there like me and like other people that have fought the battles and gone through the war and are where we are right now. And we got here because we stepped on, or we grabbed up on somebody else's back. And you're not going to be able to figure it out all on your own. So just read as much as you can. There's plenty of things to read. There's lots of blogs out there. There's lots of businessmen that want to help you. Even more now than there was when I first started. There's tons of information online. But the books and that, read what you need to do. That's what school, that's what master's degree taught me. And then you mix all that, and then I started, and so I read the book Big Bucks, and it talked about doing what you love to do. That was one of the books I was reading, and I started doing it. And at first, I have to say this, my wife was working. She was making pretty good money. She was teaching people how to fly Learjets at DFW Airport, and that's why we settled in Keller. And so I was blessed with an opportunity to sit for about a year or two after I graduated for my degree. And I think probably parents will help you out a little bit with this. Sit after you graduate and process what you've learned, process what you've just gone through, and figure out where you want to go. Maybe you want to go do some work for a mission or something, and just kind of get away from school, get your mind focused on the world, find out who you are now that they've taught you all this stuff. And I think that was a blessing of course it was a blessing, but that was kind of my thing, where she was working and she gave me a chance. She blessed me with an opportunity to just sit and think. And that was during that time, and I wasn't sitting too much because I wanted to get started after I read that book. And so, but I found myself about 2 years into that process and about $70,000 in debt. And I shouldn't have taken on the debt. That's a whole nother topic, but I was, and I had to make a decision. I'm not making it. I'm failing right now. I'm 2 years into this, and I don't want my wife supporting me anymore. And because it was challenging my manhood as well. And so I said, I got to go do something else. And I went into the mortgage business. It was the time right before the crash when mortgage brokers were making a lot of money. And I had a lot of friends that were playing flag football. We were doing a little business in flag football, but not enough to support a family. And so I went to work with a couple of them, and a buddy of mine who I had done some work with in flag football called and said, hey, I need you to go on a national tour with me. And I said, John, I've done this for 2 years. I'm $70,000 in debt. I got to get out of this. I'm going into the mortgage business now. I got to support my family. He said, Dennis, no one else knows how to do this with me but you. We've been working on this for 2 years. He was part one of the projects I was working on during those 2 years. And he said, I want to do a national tour. Okay, tell me about it. He said, well, we're going to throw a tournament in 10, 15 different cities across the nation. And we're going to drive a trailer to each one of those cities. And the winner from each of those cities comes to Vegas for the national championships. And we're going to give away $25,000. John, I can't, man. I'm about at the end. You can't afford to pay me what I need to support my family. And when I get back from that, I'm not going to have a business here. I'm in the mortgage business now. I'm doing stuff. I'm okay. I'm making some money. He said, Dennis, I need you to go. And I said, well, you can't afford it. He said, give me a number. I said, I gave him a number thinking, okay, this will get him off my back. And he said, okay. I was like, really? You're going to pay that? He said, yes. I said, okay. So I flew to San Jose. We loaded up a trailer. And for the next 3 months, I slept in hotels. One night I slept in the back of the trailer with packing blankets on top of me and some foam that we wrapped some of our stuff up as a pillow. We drove a trailer, LA, Phoenix, Houston, then up to Kansas City, back down to Dallas, over to Jacksonville, Miami. We were all over the place. And what it caused me to see was, I think I was worn down after those 2 years. I read the book, I was all excited, but it wore me down. And I read a book right about that time, or a story about the largest gold mine that was ever found in the United States was found 4 feet from the end of an abandoned tunnel. And I thought, after seeing all those flag football players across the nation, it revived me. And I thought, I'm gonna make this work. And that's why I go back to that first story of breathing. You gotta want to do it as much as you want to breathe, because if you're doing the business for your own and you're starting it out, there's going to be a lot of hard things. There's going to be a lot of rough times. And I said, I'm gonna give it one more shot. And I came back and I put everything I had into one league, and I'm not kidding. I went from 8 teams to 25 teams in 1 month, right at that moment. And it was like the gold mine. I had done all that work for 2 years. No, but it was building the relationships. And it was that moment, 2 years into it, that all of those relationships I built in those 2 years all finally came together, and it happened. And I thought, wow, I can actually do this as a business. And then some other things happened right then, and I got out of the mortgage business, and I did the flag football. And fast forward from that point to about 3 or 4 years, and this story, and this is that a lot of things happened in that time. But I got to fast forward, and I got to tell you that at the moment that, well, I came in at an interesting moment in the history of 4-on-4 flag football. The NFL had, in 92 through 95, had owned it, and it was huge. That was that 1,000-team weekend. And every year past that, 10 years down the road, it had been sold. The NFL got out of the business. The numbers went down, 900, 800, 700, 600, 500, until the point where 10 years later, when I got back in it and John asked me to do the tour, the Let It Fly, which was the remnants of Air It Out, was only at 300 teams, 3 to 400 teams. So it had dropped that much, and that was only one weekend tournament, where in the past they had 1,000 teams 2 weekends in a row. So we were going through a cycle in 4-on-4 historically because of the NFL, because of the largest marketing corporation in the world, what they were able to build. Because they got out of it, it started diving, and we came in right at a point where it was still maybe able to save it, but then we weren't able to save it because we didn't have that kind of power. The investment to do the national tour turned out to be good and bad. It gave us the chance to work with Dion because they saw what we were doing, and we gave away the largest cash prize in the history of flag football with Dion in 2007. So that was about 2004 to 2007. But then right after 2007, the sport got worse and worse and worse. We weren't able to save it. The writing was on the wall. We got out of the national tour thing. We got out of the tour thing. And it was at that moment, a buddy of mine called me and said, hey, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And I thought, no, it's not working. It's not gonna work anymore. I'm probably just gonna have to get out of this business. He said, no, give it one more shot. I gave it one more shot. I had to check myself in the mirror because it had gone down so much, and we had just been, for the last year up to that point, we had been beating our heads against the wall, one failure after the next. And he convinced me to give it one more shot. I did, and it worked for a minute, probably about 3 or 4 months. We had some good turnouts. We got a sponsor. But then one team in particular, and I know if this video is going somewhere, they're going to want me to say their name. Blackout won a whole bunch of tournaments in a row, and there wasn't enough support for the sport to keep it going. And so Blackout pretty much put the nail in the coffin for this area because no one thought that they could come beat them. And what we were doing at that point was like a really prestigious elite tournament, and nobody could compete with them. So it died again, and I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm out of this business. A buddy of mine who I'd done some work with, because I needed signage for my events, I worked with him a little bit. He owned a sign company. I told him, I said, I'm just going to come work with you. And I worked with him for a little while, and he needed a new machine. His business was growing, he needed a new machine. I called a friend of mine. I said, hey, my buddy needs to borrow some money. And this was kind of, these stories are all wrapped together because this guy I had introduced to Dion at one of Dion's parties that he had at his house, and he ended up doing a lot of business with Dion, and he ended up making a lot of money in tutoring kids in North Texas and working with Dion. And so we had a good relationship like that, and I called him. I knew he had a lot of money, and I knew my friend needed help, so I said, hey, my buddy needs a new machine, can you help him? And he said, I'm glad you called me. I said, oh, good. And he said, no, I'm glad you called me because I had a dream last night about you, and the dream, what God told me to give you money. I thought, that's weird. I'm calling you for money. God just told you, yeah, my buddy needs a new machine. He goes, no, not for your buddy, for you. And I have to take you back one more step. At this point, I was even talking to Chris about selling my share of Flag Football X, giving them the 8-on-8 part. I was going to get out of flag football altogether. I was done with the business. I needed to support my family. We had our second baby. It was crunch time, and I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't do what I love to do anymore. And that's another one of those shaft stories where you're almost to the goal. And that's the thing is people, you have to realize that your business will do this. Just because you're here and then something happens like the first part of my story and then it goes like this, don't think it can't do this again, and then don't think it can't do this again. And so I was at the point where I was back down again, and this time it was God. I think God looked down on his child and said, okay, he's been through quite a bit. I'm gonna help him out a little bit. And because he knew I wanted to do what was right, and he knew what my motivation deep down. He knew where I came from, where my heart was. And so when I talked to the gentleman's name was Carl Dorval, and I talked to him, and he said, yeah, let's come talk to me. Let's talk about how to get Flag Football X going in another direction. I went and talked to him. He ended up saving my business, and I refocused like I did 4 years earlier, back on my business. We signed a deal with the Dallas Cowboys, and from that moment on, it's been up. Now, I will say that last year we did have a down, but this time I was ready for it. I said, I don't care if I'm going down now. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to put everything into it because it's going to go back up. And so your business is going to go like this. I know people that have had millions of dollars that their business went like that, and they couldn't handle it. They didn't have the passion from when they started, so they couldn't build it back up. You have to keep that passion. And if you're not passionate about your business and you own your own business, this is something else that I've learned. If you're not passionate about your business and you own your own business, Give it to somebody else who's passionate about it. Sell it. Get out of it. Or else go back, take some time, go sit in a cabin in the woods and figure out why you got started and find that passion again. Because when you're a leader, you have to have a vision. And when you're out there on the edge, there's going to be some times when a great businessman said one time, he said it's like swallowing glass. You got to be prepared for days when you're going to swallow glass, and it's rough. And so if you don't have that passion, you're not going to be able to keep going. So either find your passion again or sell your business and go do something else, because we'll all go through different levels of growth. What I'm passionate about now is not what I was passionate about 10 years ago. I'm not passionate about flag football anymore. Let me be honest. I'm not. I don't care about getting to go play. Now, would I enjoy it? Yes, to get together with my buddies. But do I look forward every weekend to going play anymore? No, I don't play anymore. But my passion has shifted. No longer is it about, and I'll tell you, I can sum it up best like this. We just had a long 6 months, and we just had our Cowboy Stadium tournament. It was a great success. Glory be to God. Prayers were answered. We filled up. People came from all over the nation. It was a great time. But I was tired. And I told my family last week, I said, pack your bags. We're just going for a drive. I have no idea where we're going. We're just going to drive through the hill country. I spent some time there when I was younger. I miss it. I think I just want to go there. And for 5 days we were on the road with 4 kids and my wife, not knowing where we were going to stay each night. And it was one of the greatest 5 days of my entire life. And on the 5th day, we found a little place that I hadn't been to since I was in 5th grade. I took a 5th grade trip there. It's called the 7A Ranch in Wimberley. And my wife said, hey, let's drive through Wimberley. And I thought, there's something about Wimberley. 20 years earlier, my 5th grade class had taken a trip there, the kind of our graduation thing going on to junior high or whatever. And I remembered it, so I said, let's go there. And it was a blessing from God. They're booked up a year in advance. We pull in there. I'm looking around thinking, man, I've been thinking about this place for 20 years and haven't been back here. I walked into the office. I said, do you have any place we can stay tonight? And the guy said, yeah, we just happen to have one little bitty room. How many people you got? I said, we had 6. He says, no, that'll never work. Because it was 2 full beds and then nowhere hardly else to sleep. And I said, let me look at it. I went and looked at it. I said, we are staying here. I don't care. This is like even if it was a tent, we would probably spend the night here. And we stayed there. We walked around. The place was like going back in time. It looked the exact same way that it did 20 years earlier. And to make that long story short, because I could talk about that for about another 5 minutes, but while we were there, the river runs right below it, and I went down to the river, and in the back of my mind, I had a vision of what a perfect river looked like. And I'm not kidding, I promise you, on my life, I went down that river with my kids, and we found a spot in the river that was better than my view of a perfect river, and I sat there. And I played with my little girls, and I sat there, and I sat there, and I thought, I am really relaxing right now. And you got to do that. But if you're a business owner, you have to learn. It's actually a skill. You have to learn how to go relax, because there's pressures of your business can get intense. But in that one moment, what it taught me was something that I was already kind of thinking, but it just solidified it. And I'm going to tell this story to anybody that wants to hear it. That was my river. My place of total relaxation is with my kids in that river, in that cool running water over those rocks, and in that shade, and just God's little piece of art that He had for me. But I thought about it. I thought, these guys that live in the city, what was my river? My river used to be that football field. I look forward to it every single weekend. I could go, I could battle it out, I could relax, I could rest, I could come back, I'd be ready for business the next week. I was a better husband, I was a better father, I was a better business person, all because I got to go relax on that football field. I remember, I said, now this is my river. That's not what I'm passionate about anymore. Because now I have a family, now it's about spending time with them, it's about going to a place where they can relax also and I can relax. And I thought, but what I'm providing is this right here for all those guys in North Texas. Every weekend I bring the river to them. This is their river. And so what I have to do now in my business is provide them a place where they can relax every weekend so that they can go back and they can be better businessmen, leaders, husbands, fathers. And so my mission became, and my passion came back and flooded me. What does this mean? What does it mean for my business? What does it mean for what I do for my customers? What does it mean for the people that work for me? What does it mean for everything that I do? And so you talk about my plan. Is this where I saw myself? Is this what I planned out for myself? No, no way. We can never, I don't think anybody can ever really plan, because you don't know what you're going to be passionate about in the future. You can look from a business standpoint, you can look at your passions right now, put your heart and soul into it. If you're going to create something on your own, be ready to fight a war. There's nothing different than going into basic training in the military, or going and doing 2-a-days at some new university where you're fighting for a spot, and how hard you work out and how much practice you go to and how much you have to read and study for school and fighting that war your freshman year in college, you know, than it is getting into a business and starting it. It's not easy, it's very hard, but the reward is now I get to do it, and I'm going to say my way, but I can be creative. I think that's the thing that any business person wants, is they want a place where they can be creative. If you have to go to a company and you're working for somebody else, you're doing it their way. Even if that's, you know, and I guess we're all called to do different things. So maybe some people want to go work for somebody else, and that's a perfect place for them, and that's where God's called them to be, and that works with their personality, their dreams, and maybe they're doing something on the side while they're going to that. That's fine. But for the entrepreneur, the person that says, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to blaze a trail. I want to Starship Enterprise this thing. You know, it's because you're creative. It's because you have ideas. It's because you want to go. You want to build something. And I think that's why you look at yourself and your passions, and you work hard right now, and you pray, and you read a lot, and you look to others, and just be ready to fight a war. But did I plan this? No. But there's so much that I do want to tell other people that are looking to get into it, because there's so many lessons you'll learn along the way. You got to keep fighting. As I just told you, my business, it was up and down twice. If I would have gotten out of it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm so blessed to be where I am today. God is blessing us immensely, and we don't have to worry about being in business tomorrow. We're doing good. We're making money right now, and I think that's an even more of a blessing when you are making money and your passion is revitalized. There's not a better place in the business world than that. In the beginning it's hard. You have the passion but you don't have the money, and then in the end you have the money but not the passion. So I think that's an important business, and I'm sure there's books about it, but I don't know what they are. Maybe this can help somebody find one. When I worked with Dion, one of the coolest things that I saw, I walked into his gym, and in huge letters across the top of his gym it said, "You gotta believe." And at that moment, I didn't really understand what that meant. But a lot of us are given gifts and we don't believe in them. And I think that you don't need to understand how everything's going to work out. You don't need to understand where you're going to be 2 years from now. You need to have goals and those kinds of things. And there's lots of books that can help you with that. But just believing that you can do something amazing, I think is the most important thing, because in those moments when you are fighting the battle, which you will fight if you own your own business, and in those moments when it seems like everything is failing, if you have that belief that you're destined to succeed, that if you follow your passion, that it's going to work out somehow. It might not be the thing that you picked. It might be something else that's related to it that you end up working in. But to believe, I think, is the most important thing, and I think that's even why our salvation is based on that. God said, you don't need to do anything else. You just need to believe, have faith. And for our Savior, the Creator of this world, to say that's the way that we enter into a relationship with Him and that we spend eternity with Him, I think it's a pretty cool message for the business owner down here that you got to believe in what you're doing. And you have to believe that it's going to work out somehow, some way. And I think that's why Dion wrote it across the top of his gym, and that's why it's one of the number one things that he thinks is important. I think I've been driven by a belief that, look, God, I'm going to show up. I'm going to work hard. I don't know the details. I don't know how you're going to work it all out, but I'm here, and now it's your turn. And so I did believe, obviously, in the Creator of the universe, but then you also have a responsibility to believe in what you're doing down here. And I think He uses that and He turns that into something amazing. So that's what's been driving me all these years, and I think that's the most important thing, and the thing that I would hope probably I could tell someone if I only had a couple minutes with them. That's probably the one thing that I would want to tell them.